welcome Shri P.K. Jaggi sir for his lecture based on regulatory affairs and its future perspectives. Dr. Jaggi, Shri Jaggi sir completed his B.Pharm from Delhi University in 1975. Then he completed his LLB from Delhi University, DU in 1982, MBA from Indira Gandhi Open University in 1992. After graduation, he worked as an approved manufacturing chemist in a small-scale injectable unit in Delhi for over 4 years, and joined as drug inspector under Delhi government in August 1979 after selection through UPSC. He worked in various fields in drug control organization department like officer on special duty, in charge in intelligence cells, first appellate authority under RTI Act 2005, and various duties under this department of drug control department, government of Delhi. He is also a recipient of Best Drug Inspector Award in 2002 at Bengaluru, IPJ Fellowship Award in 2011 at New Delhi, KC Chatterjee Award in 2014 during 66 IPC held at Hyderabad, IPGA Lifetime Achievement Award in 2016 at Lucknow, and Pharma Ratan Award in 2017 at New Delhi. Presently, he is a founder trustee of Indian Pharmacy Graduate Welfare Trust, editor-in-chief of IPG Today newsletter, and member of various institutional committees like Institutional Ethics Committee of GTB Hospital, Shadra, Delhi, Institutional Ethics Committee of Delhi State Cancer Institute, and Rajiv Gandhi Super Specialty Hospital, Raipur, Delhi, and University College of Medical Sciences, Shadra, Delhi. So I welcome Sri P.K. Jaggi sir for his lecture. Thank you very much, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Gurupreet ji, for the nice words you have spoken about me. And first of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Jaya Balan, all the faculty members, the administration, and good morning to all the students who are attending this webinar. I think first of all, we should start with a prayer to address to all of you. I think some of you must have attended my lecture last week also. That was also something related to this. But today I'm going to tell you about the career opportunities in regulatory affairs in pharmacy. I'm sure some of you at this stage would be confused whether to go in for manufacturing, research, sales, or have their own manufacturing unit, or even go in for regulatory affairs in pharmacy. At the end of my talk, I think many of you would be clear whether to opt for regulatory affairs as far as pharmacy is concerned. So my thirst in this topic would be how you can decide about which stream you should pick up: manufacturing, sales, distribution, or regulatory affairs. Right? Thank you. First of all, you see that I am a graduate in pharmacy. Dr. Gurpreet has told you, and I have done my law also and my MBA also. But basically, I am a pharmacist, so I am proud to be a pharmacist all the time. So, what is regulatory? Regulatory and regulation uh, uh, come from the word regulate. What is regulate? We should first try to understand that, then we'll go ahead. Regulate means to control, to supervise, to maintain or monitor anything by means of rules and regulations. There are various rules and regulation, enactments, laws, and how we can control the and supervise and maintain or monitor those activities which are in the say manufacturing unit or analytical unit or otherwise. So pharmaceutical industry, as you know, is a very, very regulatory industry for obvious reasons that each drug is so very important because it has to be given to a patient who is already sick, and if he is not getting the right medicine, he will be losing his life also, or maybe some other complications are there. So being a regular industry, we see that all the active pharmaceutical ingredients, their manufacturing is regulated. So is the drug formulations in the industry. And the manufacturing of medical devices, they are also regulated. Clinical trials in research also, as far as drugs are concerned, they are also regulated. And then the manufacturing of cosmetics also is regulated under the Drugs and Cosmetics Act. Then we have the testing of drugs. All the drugs which are coming into the market have to be tested before they are consumed by the patients. And distribution of drugs is also regulated, and sale of drugs is also regulated, whether retail sale or wholesale. The other day I told you what is the difference between sales and distribution. Sales is always for a consideration, whether for money or services. Distribution of drugs or anything can be free of cost, and no person may not charge any money for that. So import and export of drugs is also regulated in India. The import and export of cosmetics is also regulated. Anything that is coming into India, the ADC or the Assistant Drug Controller at the port, whether it's a seaport or the airport, they check the quality, and everything that's going out of the country has to meet with the regulations of that importing country and our regulations also. In processing of whole human blood, many of you would be knowing that whole human blood is also considered to be a drug because it is used to treat so many diseases. And the blood banks, the license is given by the regulatory authorities in the particular states. And then we have the manufacture of blood components and blood products. So everything that relates to drug is regulated as far as India is concerned, and most of the other countries also. So it is a highly regulated industry. So these are some of the important laws for regulating the drugs and cosmetics in India. The important acts are the Drugs and Cosmetic Act 1940, Drugs and Cosmetic Rules 1945. These are the most important rules and regulations. The others are the students of jurisprudence in 5th semester. I think they will be studying all these acts also to some extent. Drugs and Magic Remedies, Objectionable Advertisement Act 1954. Then we have the rules in 1955. Then we have the Narcotics and Psychotropic Substances Act 1985. Then Drug Prices Control Order 2013. Here, the Ministry of Chemicals, having this National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, controls the prices of the essential drugs and some other items also, if the government feels that there is going to be some overcharging and all. Then we have the medical devices rules, which have been recently promulgated and come into force. They came into force in 2017. Then we have the new drugs and clinical trial rules 2018 also. Then cosmetic rules 2020 have already been in force since this year only. So these are all the important acts that regulate the drugs and cosmetics in India. So the most important one are the Drugs and Cosmetic Act 1940 and the rules framed thereunder 1945. Before that, I may tell you that everything, every law that comes into force in India gets its flow from the Constitution of India. So Constitution of India is the most pious book which is considered to be the fountainhead of all the laws in India. So what is that? Under the Constitution of India, we have the legislature, we have the executive, and we have the judiciary also. So legislature has different functions, executive have different functions, and judiciary has its own function. What are those? The legislature makes the laws. The people in the assembly or the members of parliament, they make the laws, and the executive, they get the laws implemented and or enforced, and judiciary interprets those laws to give effect to what has been laid down by the legislator. So a little more about the Constitution I want to tell you. because it relates to our subject of today also. Under the 7th schedule, Article 246, we have the union list, which is also known as the central list or the list 1. And then we have the list 2 or the state list, and then we have the concurrent list. The central or the union list covers these subjects which relate to Navy, military, Air Force, atomic energy, CBI, railways, foreign affairs, and things like that. That is the members of parliaments, they lay down the laws, and the central agencies, only they have the powers to enforce these particular subjects. And the state list, the state assemblies, they formulate the laws which relate to local police, agriculture, public health, trade, tolls, local taxes, markets and fairs, betting and gambling, and so. And the other last one is the list 3, which is also known as the concurrent list, whereby the union list and the central list, they are combined. What I mean to say that the central government as well the state government have the power to enforce these subjects. What are those? Criminal laws and procedure, adulteration of food, and drugs and poison. So drugs I have highlighted. So we will be discussing today about drugs only. So the central government as well as the state government, they can make laws with relation to drugs as well as food also. So I may tell you the executive functions of the regulatory affairs as far as drugs is concerned. We have the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Under that, we have a two-tier system whereby the central government, as I told you, has a different function, and the state government, they have their different functions. What are those? I am going to tell you that how if a person wants to be a regulator and gets into this field, what are the posts that are there and how you can make entry into that. The first entry level is the inspector, what we call as in common parlance, the drug inspector. Then we have the assistant drug control, then we have the deputy drug controller, and then we have the drug controller. In many of the states, we have the inspector. They are also known as drug control officers, like in Haryana. Then we have the assistant drug controller, deputy drug controller, and drug controller. They can get into this particular as a lateral entry also. The basic entry, the starting post is the inspector. So in some of these states, you will find that assistant drug controller is also known as the assistant commissioner. Deputy drug controller is also known as the deputy commissioner, and drug controller is also known as the drug commissioner. Some of these states like Maharashtra, and then we have Gujarat also, they have commissionerate system. So this is all I want, but the nomenclature doesn't make any difference because the powers and duties are exactly the same in all the states. In the center also, we have a thing like this. Here I'm going to tell you who can be appointed as an inspector. Like some of you would be thinking that if how can become an inspector under the Drugs and Cosmetics Act. So who can be appointed? What are the qualification and experiences also that has been laid down under the Drug and Cosmetic and the rules. The qualification are graduate in pharmacy, pharmaceutical sciences or medicine with specialization in clinical pharmacology or microbiology from a university established in India. So those who are pursuing a pharmacy graduate course or anything above that, say MPharm or PharmD, they are eligible for getting to be appointed as an inspector, but they should be having at least not less than 18 months of experience in manufacturing or testing of drugs under an approved chemist. But this is only specifically meant for those inspectors who will be appointed for inspection of the drug units which are manufacturing Schedule C drugs. I hope you understand Schedule C drugs. Uh, Otherwise, a person who is a graduate in pharmacy can always be appointed under the Drugs and Cosmetics Act as an inspector, what in common parlance we call drug inspector. So, but the most important thing is that no person having any financial interest in the import, manufacture, or sale of drugs or cosmetics shall be appointed. Supposing any one of you who is a young graduate wants to be appointed as a inspector, and he has a family business where he is a partner or a director of that company where drugs are manufactured or sold also, then he will definitely be considered to be having a financial interest in the manufacture, sale, or import of drugs. Then he will be debarred from being an inspector because of this proviso under the Section 21 of the Drugs and Cosmetics Act. So, what is the selection process? Selection process usually is through the interview that is conducted by the Union Public Service Commission or the State Public Service Commission. So, in my case, at least in 1979, there were 8 posts of drug inspectors, and the number of students who had applied was around 250 or so, a little more than that. So UPSC had conducted a written examination so as to weed out and filter out the kind of people they wanted. So out of that, 39 were shortlisted. From the out of 39, 8 were selected, and I was lucky to join as a drug inspector in Delhi Delhi Drug Control Department. So interview basically is the first hurdle, and if the number of these candidates are more, then the UPSC or State Public Service Commission conducts a written examination also. What are the levels and what are the remuneration of an inspector in the central government as well as in the states? I'm going to tell you. There is one post as known as assistant inspector in the central government, that is CDSCO, or the Drugs Controller General of India office. The pay band is 4,200 and the level is 6, and the first pay the assistant inspector gets is around 55,000 rupees. So I think this is quite handsome. And after that, after some time, the assistant inspector can become an inspector also, whose pay band will be then 4,800. Its level will be then 8, and the first pay they will be getting is 73,270 rupees. An assistant drug controller or the assistant commissioner, as we call it, will be in the pay band of say 6,600. Pay level will be 11, and he or she will be getting the first pay as a little more than a lakh of rupees, which is, I think, quite handsome also. As they rise in their ladder also, the deputy drug controller or the deputy commissioner, the pay band will be 7,600, the level will be 12, and first pay will be 1,22,000 rupees. And the joint drug controller we have in the CDSO, the level is pay band is 8,700 and level is 30. And they will the first pay they will get is a lakh of rupees, 1,80,000 rupees. And the Drug Controller General of India, he is in the pay band of 10,000 and level of 14. And his first pay is around 2 lakh rupees. So all this I got it calculated from an accounts friend of mine who is in the account section. And just to give an idea that this is the remuneration that they will be getting. Here, I just want to tell you one thing that except for assistant inspector, all the other officers, they are gazetted officer. So I'm going to discuss in my next slide also what are gazetted officer. So this, apart from the first pay they will be getting, these are the total emoluments, and they will be getting some transport allowance, that is for coming to the office and then going back to their place of residence. For the inspector and the assistant inspector, it's 4,200 rupees. That is apart from the first pay. And then we have the other officers, ADC, DDC, Joint DC, and DCGI. They get around 8,400 rupees at transport allowance if they are using their own conveyance, or otherwise if they are using their office conveyance, then they are not given any remuneration in this regard. So what is the status of an inspector? The first ladder, they are the public servant. Public servant means they are under Section 21. They are having some not only powers, they are given some immunity also, so that they cannot be proceeded. Whatever is done in good faith by a public servant is considered to have been done in the right perspective. Then they are also considered to be the gazetted officer. Their names are published in the official gazette, and a gazetted officer, has the powers to attest your documents also. And if you are yourself a gazetted officer, you can help other people in the general public to put on your stamp and certify that you have seen the original document, and this is the photocopy or the copy of the particular document, which can be accepted by any other government agency. What is the job profile? What they have to perform as an inspector? I am discussing. They have to inspect the pharmacy, whether it's a retail pharmacy or a wholesale pharmacy, before the license is granted, or even after the license has been granted. So they have the job to inspect the shops. Then they have the powers to search also, to see that anything has been doing any person has been doing anything wrong there or not. Then if the person has a license to operate a pharmacy or retail or wholesale, then the inspector can enter and search that particular premises. But they have also the powers to stop any vehicle which is on the road, and if they have the belief that something contraband has been kept in that vehicle, they can stop that vehicle, they can stop that person and search him personally also in the presence of witnesses, which is a different procedure. I'll discuss, I think, in the later slides also. And they have to take samples for the purpose of test and analysis. Whenever they go for any inspection of a pharmacy, retail or wholesale, they take some samples. If they have some doubt on the quality of the drug or the cosmetic they have seen, then they can take the samples and send it to the government analyst for the purpose of getting them analyzed and take suitable action if the sample is considered to be spurious, adulterated, or not of standard quality. Then they have the powers to check all the records, that is purchase record and the sale record, just to see that the person who is having those drugs or the cosmetics has purchased from this licensed person or the licensed manufacturer. Then they have to do the investigate the complaints also. At times, a person is selling, say, drugs or is manufacturing some cosmetics or even drugs, medical devices. There are complaints by the general public about the quality of the drug or the particular item, or there are complaints from the doctor also, or by the patient also. Then they have to investigate it and submit their reports also. Then the reports are then given to the senior officer, and if there is some hanky-panky on the face of it, and it can be proved in the court of law, then they can launch prosecution in the court of law, so that the particular person is brought to book and punished. The idea of punishment is that no other person should commit such a mistake or crime. So what are the promotional avenues? I've already told you, but from this slide, the first is the assistant drug inspector. This post is not there in any of the states in India, but this post is there in the CDSU, that is DCGI office. Assistant drug inspector, the qualifications are almost the same, rather exactly the same, but the remuneration and the level, the job profile I told you is slightly different. From the assistant drug inspector, they become the drug inspector, and then they become the rising the ladder. They will become assistant drug controller. Then they can become the deputy drug controller. Then they can, in the central also, they can become the joint drug controller, and finally the drug controller. So from drug inspector to drug controller in a state, and from assistant drug inspector to drug controller general of India in the CDSU, that is the Central Drug Standards Control Organization, which is the central body overlooking the gamut of cosmetics and drugs as far as their sales, imports, and exports is concerned. So, what are the attributes of a good regulatory officer? Supposing you want to become a good regulatory officer, what type of attributes you should have? A regulatory officer should not only act as a cop, not like a police wala, just to find faults in you and challan and give you a notice or even prosecute. What I mean by that is a regulatory officer, as far as pharmacy is concerned, pharmaceutical business is concerned, they should also be very, very facilitating to the persons who are already in business. And a good regulatory officer will not misuse his power or abuse the power that has been bestowed on him. Then one has to respect the licensee, whether he is having a retail pharmacy, wholesale pharmacy, or a manufacturing. Unless you respect the other person, you will not get the respect from the other side also. So here I have just depicted the person on the right side is having a bag. I personally feel he is an inspector, and the little fat man who is with a heavy tummy is the businessman. He could be a pharmacist also. He could be a manufacturer also. So we have to be very, very polite in getting the information from them. And unless we respect them, they will not respect us also. So we have to be, as a regulatory officer, we have to be helpful to everybody, not only to the manufacturers or the other pharmacists, but to our juniors also. We should see that other people also rise in their ladder also. And whatever little knowledge we have, we must share also. Here I may tell you that while I was in my office, the head of office, or even the assistant drug controller or the grievance officer, I used to help everybody. And that is one reason that even today they respect me and call me for any kind of opinion, whatever little knowledge I have, I share with them. And it is very kind of the faculty of Alwar College of Pharmacy and Lord's University also. I saw Mr. Naresh Kalra also attending to this webinar. They all respect because of the good deeds you do in your profession for the sake of pharmacy. So one has to be very, very helpful. Otherwise also, not as a regulator, but otherwise also in your life, you should be helpful. So after you have done or joined as an inspector in any regulatory department, you can do other courses also while you are studying. Here I like to tell my story also. While I joined as an inspector in 1979 in Delhi Drug Control, I had joined my law classes also. Every day after my official duties, I used to rush to my college, that is Law Center 1, Delhi University, and to do my LLB. During my this job also, I did my law as well as 3 years and 4 years of MBA also. So you can also add on some qualification so that you can be more useful, you can be more in demand, not only in government, but in private sector also. So these are some of the add-on qualifications you can focus. That is, first one is the post-graduation in regulatory affairs. You will be already in regulatory affairs. If you can add to this, it will be very good. It will give you better understanding and insight about the how the regulations are given effect to. Then you can do post-graduation in clinical trials also. There are courses run by private universities also. Then you can do LLB or MBA, as I did also. Then I think some of the young people who are already in this field, they would definitely like to go in for computer applications just as an add-on qualification. Then specialization in intellectual property rights. I know at least some of the advocates who did their pharmacy, did their B Pharm, M Pharm, but they have now specialized in intellectual property rights, helping others in getting patents, copyrights, and trademark registration and all. So, my idea of telling you there are other courses also which will depend on your particular choice. But I thought I should tell you what are the other uh, qualifications which can be useful in your profile while you are already a regulatory officer. So, scope of a regulatory officer, this I am going to discuss about the private sector. What is that? The scope is increasing because there is increasing research and development activity going on in India as well as all over the world. Newer drugs are being invented, and the number of people required as a regulatory officer in any multinational or a big company, there will definitely be a great scope for them. An increasing number of pharmaceutical units, medical devices units, cosmetic units, clinical research organizations, and blood banks, approved testing laboratory. The number is increasing so very fast. So the requirement of a regulatory officer will definitely be growing in the coming times. Then the number of uh, active pharmaceutical imports and their manufacture is also increasing. And then we have the increasing exports also. We are, as far as India is concerned, we are considered to be the pharmacy of the world, and we export to as many as 200 countries. So the regulatory officer has a specific role in this field also. The increasing number of pharmaceutical dealers, that is wholesalers and retailers, then any person who has specialization of being a regulatory officer, he can be useful in preparing the dossiers. Dossiers means the documents which have to be submitted to the CDSU or the person who want to purchase your documents, where you want to export. They will be asking some documents, how you have prepared it, how you got it tested, how many batches you have prepared, where are your approvals. So although they are considered to be dossiers, so for that you have to be have the services of a regulatory officer. Then handling of queries by different stakeholders. What happens is you have manufactured a particular drug or you have sold some particular drug, then there could be complaints from different quarters also, say from the doctor, from the other regulator from other states also. Then the regulatory officer or the drug inspector has to make queries, get into deep into it, and submit its report. What is there? Unless he has the knowledge about the rules and regulation, he'll not be able to do justice to his job. So in private sector, regulatory officers are also there. I told you, it is not only the drug inspector in the government, but as the industry is going, as I told you in my previous slide, it is growing by leaps and bounds. The licensing work will be increasing. Means if I have this factory manufacturing, say, formulations, then I have to be in touch with the state drug controller also. And if it is a new drug, I have to be in touch with the CDSU or DCGI office. Then what are the forms and all that? Then for that particular, a person can be appointed who knows the job of the regulations, and he can liaise between the uh, regulatory officer as well as the manufacturer. So licensing work is being done. Preparation of doses I have already explained. Then prosecution follow-up. If a manufacturer, because of some mistake, some drug has been manufactured which is not of standard quality, the regulators or the drug inspector will file a case in the court of law. So then in the court of law, you can follow up the cases. What is the next date? What was done on the previous date? What witnesses we have to produce before the court? What is the judgment? How we can go into appeal and all those things. So prosecution follow-up can also be done by the persons who have some knowledge about the regulatory affairs. So miscellaneous legal works, which I also already explained, and consultancy. You can have your own private consultancy. So a regulatory officer who is having sufficient knowledge and experience, he will never retire. I can only say that I have not retired. I have retired from the Drug Control Department, Delhi, say on 31st of December 2012. The very next day, I was appointed with the Delhi State Cancer Institute. The very next day, 6 years I have served, but after that, I just left that shop on my own. And to even today, I'm useful giving consultancy, of course, free of cost to anybody who comes to me. And you can be very, very useful if you get into your field. So these are some of the industry requirement. If you are placed in the industrial or the private sector, persons entrusted with duties relating to regulatory affairs must combine their scientific and legal knowledge. So scientific knowledge is your B Pharm, M Pharm, or PharmD, and legal knowledge if you do some course like LLB, legal knowledge to ensure that pharmaceuticals, medical products manufactured, distributed, and sold by companies meet the required legislation in order to control their safety and efficacy. This is very, very simple. Anybody can understand. So any drug that is being manufactured or cosmetic that is manufactured or medical products is being manufactured, they should have control over their safety and efficacy. Such persons are really in great demand, as I see as of today, and I feel the demand is going to increase also in the coming time. So a bit of regulatory affair is also done by the government analyst. The drug inspector takes up the sample, he sends it to the government analyst for his opinion. He does the test and analysis, and if it is not so, then the drug inspector, uh, depending on the contents of the test report, he files the prosecution. So government analyst can be appointed by the particular state or the even the center under section 21, having the particular qualifications which are laid under Rule 44, and their duties are defined under Rule 45. I'm not going to discuss in detail. I just referred this, and this particular slide I after had added only yesterday night, just to bring you to the knowledge also that apart from drug inspector, if you have a liking for analysis or research, then you can become a government analyst also in the government sector. So advantages of being a regulatory officer, what are those? I'm going to tell you. Comparable monetary compensation. I have already told you that minimum pay to the assistant drug inspector is around 55,000 to 60,000 rupees, and which is comparable to other, say, professions as a medicine or in electronics or civil engineering. It is quite comparable and very, very good monetary compensation. Assured career progression. So after being appointed as an inspector, you can become a assistant drug controller, and assistant drug controller, then you become the deputy drug controller or the joint drug controller, then the drug controller. Supposing the number of posts is not there, what happens is the government has now devised a method whereby although your designation may not be the assistant drug controller, but you will be compensated in a manner that you get the assured career progression. Your monetary benefits will be protected. You will be given the pay scale of assistant drug controller or the deputy drug controller, although you may remain as a inspector or a assistant drug controller. So this is very important for the sake of stability in a hierarchy. Definitely, it's a respectable job, and of course, you have to respect the other person also. Stability of the job, I told you, and then there is continuous learning curve. Every day you learn something new, but you should have the aptitude to learn. Supposing I was working in a small scale injectable unit. There used to be some problem, some challenge every day, and I learned so many things. When I became a regulatory officer, all the cases were used to be slightly different, and we have to decide accordingly. So every time you learn, you have you learn so many things every time. But of course, the aptitude be such that you want to learn it from even from your junior, your senior, your peers, and all. What are the pitfalls? It's not that it is uh, there are no pitfalls for that. There are certain disadvantages also. I may tell you what are those. Limited number of posts. It's not that so many drug inspectors are there, as many numbers of the pharmacy. So the number of posts of an inspector or the ADC or deputy drug controller is limited in every state. And then we have very few promotional avenues, but which can be compensated, as I told you, as far as monetary is concerned. The person may not be promoted, but he will be getting the equal rank, equal monetary benefits. Then there are professional hazards also. I told you, you can be very friendly with all the people who are in your trade, whether as a pharmacist or a manufacturer. But at times you have to perform your duties also. I can just give you an example. Recently, there was a drug inspector, lady drug inspector in Punjab, who was shot dead at her in the office itself, and just because she was doing her duty. And it happened in our department also. The person, the drug inspector, had drawn the sample. The other person thought that why he has taken the sample of the spurious drug they were manufacturing and they could do it. But the drug inspector was performing his duty. He is paid by the government for a particular job. But the other person, the manufacturer, he went to his house, he shot him also. So we have to be very careful about those things. We have to balance the thing. But personally, I feel we must perform our duty to the best of our ability, and whatever is job is given to us, we must do it. So these are very rare cases. In so many years, very few cases happened like that, and but we cannot be afraid of that. Accident can happen anywhere to anybody also. So now coming to training, being in this regulatory officer, the central government, that is CDSU, they keep on training the drugs inspectors from the different states uh, through the experienced people at the National Institute of Pharmaceutical Research at Mohali. I used to be one of the trainers for the drug inspectors, ADCs, and even drug controllers used to attend my classes also. So you are given training by not your own officers, but by the other officers of other states who are experienced in the job. So we get to know what other states are doing and how it can be improved upon while in our own settings in our state. At the same time, I want to tell you what is the importance of training. This, of course, Dr. Jaibalan has arranged for you as a lecture, but I feel this is also a training program for all of you. So what is that? It is good to have goodwill. I'll come back. It is good to have enthusiasm. I find nobody has left this webinar as of now, and everybody is trying to have enthusiasm and learn also. And but it is very important that it is essential to have training. So if you feel that you know everything, no, then it is the end. Your plateau has come. Rather, you will be downgrading yourself. This was said by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru way back in 1964 when he left. But this principle, this mantra is true as of today also. So, what is the mission statement? It should be the endeavor of any regulatory officer working in government sector or even private sector to ensure that drugs of the right quality, safety, and efficacy are available to the public at large at reasonable prices. So, if you are a regulatory officer, whether in government or in private sector, this should be your thirst area, that whatever is manufactured in India is of right quality, is of safe, and is efficacious for the person to whom it is to be administered, and is also available at a reasonable price. Yes, honesty is the best policy. This is a very old saying, but I have some experience of this. If you are honest, somebody is looking at you. If nobody else is looking at, God is looking at you, and you get to be benefited for that. So my personal advice to all of you, um, not only your teachers, your parents, they have always been telling you, don't tell anything bad to anybody. But here I want to tell you that we have to be honest to our job, to our people around us, and we and somebody will is watching us, and we are paid in some manner which may not be easily foreseeable for by all of us. So, to conclude what we have discussed, and today I am going to tell you, regulatory affairs or the government affairs we call it is a comparatively new profession which has evolved and developed from the desire of the government to protect public health by controlling the safety and efficacy of products in area including pharmaceuticals, veterinary medicine, medical devices, cosmetics, and complementary medicine. So you understand all this, what I have already discussed. A regulatory professional is responsible for keeping track of the ever-changing legislation in, in that particular country, all the regions in which the company wishes to distribute its product, advise on the legal and scientific restraints and requirements by collecting, collating, and evaluating scientific data. So unless you have a pharmacy background or a scientific background, you will not be able to help your people, whichever, say, you are in the private sector or a government sector. Persons entrusted with duties relating to regulatory affairs combine their scientific and legal knowledge to ensure that pharmaceuticals, medical products, and cosmetics which are developed, manufactured, distributed, and sold by companies meet the required legislation in order to control the safety and efficacy. So this is all the summary. And there are a large number of avenues for the right people that I have already told you, and they are growing also, the government as well as private sector. Apart from being highly respectable, and the remunerations offered in this profession are comparable to the best in the industry. As I told you, whether you have opted for an as an engineering subject, but here also you are compensated well. So thank you very much, all of you. And if there are any questions, I'm prepared for that. And back to Dr. Gurpreet Singh. Here I have given my phone number also and my mail ID also. Anybody who has some query, if is not able to ask any question right away, they can leave it in the chat box. I'll request the moderator to compile them, and I'll be very happy to answer all of them, to at least to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir, for this wonderful lecture. your experience regarding in this field. It's always a privilege for us to learn from you, to listen from you, to hear from you in this field, sir. Any questions from student side? Sir is always there to answer. Yes, Zahid Ahmed.
When there are no questions, I understand that everything has been understood or nothing has been understood.
Yes, Zahid Ahmed, do you want to ask something?
Anybody?
ये सर जो आप वो बोल रहे थे ना लेवल एंड्रोनिमेशन के बारे में।
हाँ, पूछिए पूछिए।
हाँ, उसके बारे में आप देखे ना वो बैंड
सवाल
क्या होता है और क्या बताया था फर्स्ट पे।
Zahid, your voice is breaking.
या गुरप्रीत जी, आपको
हेलो
समझ आ
सर।
गया हो तो बता दीजिए, आप बता दीजिए क्या पूछ रहे हैं।
No, sir, I am not able to understand what
Also,
he.
okay,
Yes.
okay.
शाहिद आराम से बात कर लो।
आराम से बात करो। यस, आराम से पूछो।
You can put question in chat box also.
नो
Zahid.
प्रॉब्लम। अभी भी
Okay,
पूछ
sir.
सकते हैं, अभी भी पूछ सकते हैं, हिंदी में भी पूछ सकते
नहीं, हिंदी में पूछ सकते हैं, बोल।
हैं। हाँ,
राहुल अनम्यूट करके बात करो राहुल।
आराम से बात करो।
सर फॉर्म डी में क्या प्रोसेस होता है?
फॉर्म डी में
यार राहुल,
यस सर।
पहले पहले आप इंट्रोड्यूस करो, नमस्कार बोलो, आप सीधा
Good
आके
morning,
फॉर्म डी
sir.
क्या होता है पहले
राहुल
Good morning,
गुप्ता।
sir.
से बात करो।
राहुल
हाँ।
गुप्ता जी,
अभी बात कर लो सर।
जी राहुल बोलो।
सर मुझे फॉर्म डी के बारे में पूछना था आपसे।
हाँ हाँ, फॉर्म डी के बारे में मेरे हिसाब से गुरप्रीत जी और डॉक्टर जयबालन आपको ज़्यादा बताएंगे। मुझे जो मालूम है, फॉर्म डी जो है 6 इयर्स कोर्स है और आप करने के बाद आपको डॉक्टर ऑफ फार्मेसी बोला जाएगा। आप अपने नाम के आगे डॉक्टर लिख सकते हैं। सब्जेक्ट्स करीब करीब वही होते हैं, लेकिन अभी क्योंकि ये रिसेंटली आया है, करीब 4-5 साल हो गए इंट्रोड्यूस किए हुए इंडिया में, फार्मेसी काउंसिल ने इसको इंट्रोड्यूस किया है। सब कॉलेजेस में नहीं है, सब यूनिवर्सिटीज में नहीं है। तो अगर आपको ऐसे सोचना है कि आपको फॉर्म डी करना है तो बहुत अच्छी बात है। तो एक बड़ा कॉम्पैक्ट सा प्रोग्राम है आफ्टर से योर 10+2। बाकी डिटेल्स में आई थिंक डॉक्टर जयबालन और गुरप्रीत जी आपको बताएंगे।
मैं
डॉक्टर
बता दूं।
जयबालन, आप भी बता दीजिए, थोड़ा सा आप भी
हाँ।
बता दीजिए।
राहुल, आप अभी कौन सा कोर्स में?
सर परचेसिंग बी फार्मेसी।
बी फार्मेसी
year.
के बाद, हाँ, बी फार्मेसी के बाद आप फार्म डी पोस्ट बकलारेट कोर्स कर सकते हैं। वो 3 इयर्स का कोर्स है, ठीक है। 3 इयर्स कोर्स में 1 ईयर आपको क्लासरूम टीचिंग होगा, 1 ईयर इंटर्नशिप होगा, 1 ईयर वार्ड्स में होगा, ठीक है। सो यू विल बी ट्रेन्ड मेनली इन हॉस्पिटल एंड क्लिनिकल वार्ड्स। सो यू विल बी प्रैक्टिस फॉर दैट पर्टिकुलर एरिया ओनली। पेशेंट के साथ काम करने के लिए और डॉक्टर के मदद करने के लिए ही ये कोर्स बना रखा है। फार्मेसी काउंसिल ने फार्म डी एक्ट 2008 में पास कर लिया। इंडिया में ज़्यादा कॉलेजेस में आ गए, बट राजस्थान में ओनली 4 कॉलेजेस आर रनिंग फार्म डी, वो भी प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटीज है। नो राजस्थान यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ हेल्थ साइंसेज affiliated college is conducting Farm D as of today. So this is the status. अगर आपको करना है तो किसी भी कॉलेज विथ गुड हॉस्पिटल फैसिलिटीज उन्हीं के पास ज्वाइन करके करना अच्छा रहेगा, प्रैक्टिस अच्छा होगा।
राहुल,
Okay.
आई थिंक यू आर नाउ क्लियर। अगर आप 12th के बाद करते तो 6 ईयर था, अभी आपको लेटरल एंट्री लेना है तो आपका बी फार्म के बाद आपको 1 साल ज़्यादा लगेगा, लेकिन आप फार्म डी हो जाएंगे। और क्लिनिकल आपको एस्पेक्ट जो है आपको हॉस्पिटल में देखना है। डॉक्टर जयबालन ने आपको बहुत अच्छे से समझा दिया। ऐसा कॉलेज लेना जहाँ हॉस्पिटल भी हो यूनिवर्सिटी में, और वहाँ पे आप और वहाँ क्लिनिकल जो डॉक्टर के साथ आपको काम करने का मौका मिलेगा।
जी, थैंक यू सर।
ओके,
वेलकम बेटा।
any other question? Still there are around 50 people, I suppose.
Mutaib Shafi wants to ask that it is a PG necessary for the DI for joining as DI. As already sir told that only bachelor degree is the sufficient qualification for
Yes, yes.
the DI. Just for Schedule C, there is one requirement more that 18 months training requirement is necessary.
18 months, that is only for the people who will be appointed as drug inspector to inspect the premises where these medicines, these drugs coming under Schedule C are being manufactured. Otherwise, it's not a requirement.
Yes, sir,
Like
yes.
I was in the injectable unit, so I had the advantage. मैं CC1 में काम किया हुआ है, इसीलिए तो मेरे को थोड़ा एडवांटेज हो गया. Otherwise, anybody can be selected. So B Farm is the minimum. If you are M Farm, that's very good.
Yes, sir.
Zahid Ahmed was asking about the level of remuneration. पे बैंड वो डिटेल मांग रहे हैं, वो सर ने डिटेल बता दिया. और दूसरा एक चीज है, हमारा यूट्यूब चैनल में ये अवेलेबल है. कभी भी आपको ये चैनल उसी पेज देखना है तो बार बार जाके आप देख सकते हैं, कोई दिक्कत नहीं. सर से इतना हम ले रहे हैं, ये ज्यादा है. इस तरह का हम क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हैं तो ओवर एंड अबव द लिमिट हो जाएगा.
नहीं, कोई बात नहीं. बच्चों को अगर पूछने दो, इनके दिमाग में कुछ है तो इसका मतलब they are serious about this subject. Those who are not serious, they have already left this.
Zahid is very much serious about the pay scale.
Okay, okay. But I have told you pay scale. I mean, आपको समझाने के लिए मैंने फर्स्ट पे भी बता दिया. तो आपको समझ आना चाहिए 60,000 से लेके हमको 2 लाख रुपए तक मिलेगा. और ये बढ़ता रहता है. गवर्नमेंट में डियरनेस अलाउंस बढ़ जाता है हर साल, तो थोड़ा थोड़ा तनख्वाह हमारा बढ़ता ही रहता है. और लेकिन सिक्योरिटी रहता है. प्राइवेट जॉब में ऐसा नहीं होता है. अभी मालिक बोले मैं आपका तनख्वाह नहीं बढ़ाता हूँ तो नहीं बढ़ाएगा, बोनस नहीं देता हूँ तो नहीं देगा. हाँ, आपको छुट्टी नहीं देना है तो नहीं देगा. LTC मिलता नहीं है वहां पर. तो देयर आर सो मेनी एडवांटेजेस ऑफ बीइंग ए गवर्नमेंट सर्वेंट. So that of course has a matter.
LTC से दूर की बात है सर.
जी. Very good. But I am happy they are asking question. देखो अल्टीमेटली पैसा शुरुआत में लगता है. आपको पैसा कितना मिलेगा? अभी ये सवाल जिसने भी पूछा उसको 10 साल बाद लगेगा नहीं मेरे को पैसा इतना नहीं चाहिए. अभी डॉक्टर जयबालन क्या करेगा ज्यादा पैसे लेके, और गुरप्रीत क्या करेगा इतना पैसा लेके? अब तो हम सब बीमारी से बच रहे हैं. हम बच जाएं. पैसा बहुत है लोगों के पास, उनके पास ऑक्सीजन नहीं है, रेमडेसिविर नहीं है, कॉन्सेंट्रेटर नहीं है, टॉलिसिजुमैब नहीं है, पता नहीं क्या क्या. किसी के पास तो मास्क भी नहीं है. वी हैव टू बी फर्स्ट लिविंग इन दिस वर्ल्ड देन मेक मनी. हम सोचेंगे लेकिन जितना हमको चाहिए वो भगवान हमको जरूर देगा. बिलीव मी. हाँ, कोई ऐसा सोचता हो, मैं उसको वार्न करना चाहता हूँ आप सबको भी. आप भी क्लास में बता देना. कोई ये सोचता हो कि मैं ड्रग इंस्पेक्टर बन गया, मैं बहुत पैसा बना लूंगा, लोगों को परेशान करके, ऐसा नहीं करना है. आप में से कोई ना कोई पकड़ा जाएगा. कल की न्यूज में 2 ड्रग इंस्पेक्टर सेंटर के अरेस्ट हो गए. CBI ने, उन्होंने कुछ पैसा 3.5 लाख रुपया किसी से लिया. मुझे बताना नहीं चाहिए, नाम भी नहीं बता रहा. दे हैव बीन अरेस्टेड. तो अगर कोई बेईमानी करेगा तो मैंने बताया, कोई देखे ना देखे भगवान देख रहा है. ये तो CBI को पता लग गया तो उन्होंने अरेस्ट कर लिया. ये कल का न्यूज है, 1 दिन पहले अरेस्ट किया. तो ये भी एक पिटफॉल है जो मैं बताया ना. जो गलत काम करेगा उसको सजा जरूर मिलेगा. मैं नहीं दे सकता, डॉक्टर जयबालन नहीं दे सकता, लेकिन भगवान देगा.
थैंक यू सर.
मैंने ठीक बोला है डॉक्टर जयबालन?
सही है सर.
जी. Any other question? I think now people have started leaving. If you
Yes.
feel, we can conclude also.
Yes, sir.
And one last slide I wanted to show.
Yeah.
Can you give me only 10 seconds?
Yes, sir, please.
अब वो मेरा लास्ट स्लाइड यही है जो मैं लास्ट में बोल रहा था कि मैं बहुत पैसा कमा लूंगा. वो क्या, जीवन मिलना भाग्य की बात है. एवरीबडी नोज लाइफ इज बाय चांस. मृत्यु आना समय की बात है. ऐसा हम सोचते हैं कि हमारी डेथ डेस्टिन्ड है, इस दिन ऐसे होगी. और मृत्यु के बाद भी लोगों के दिलों में जीवित रहना, ये कर्मों की बात है. आप कैसा काम करते हैं वो बहुत दिनों तक लोग याद रखेंगे. महात्मा गांधी है या जवाहरलाल नेहरू है या और भी जो जो महाराणा प्रताप है, जिन लोगों को हम याद इसलिए करते हैं कि उन्होंने उस समय अच्छा काम किया था. तो हमको अपनी लाइफ में अच्छा काम करना है, सिर्फ पैसा नहीं कमाना है, उतना ही करना है. तो माय एडवाइस टू ऑल ऑफ यू कि अच्छा काम करो, सब लोग आपको देर तक याद रखें. थैंक यू वंस अगेन एंड गॉड ब्लेस यू.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your second session of this training series. Actually, we have requested you another topic also, and we are waiting for the date from you. So
I'll
as
let
soon
you
as
know.
you giving us the date, we will
Yeah,
announce to the student, and we will conduct the third part of this training seminar
yeah.
by Yogi sir.
That is also very important for all the students who want to have their own business also.
With this, I think it is enough for today. Thank you very much, and thank you, Pawan Jaggi sir,
Thank
for
you.
your
Thank you.
time,
God,
energy, and knowledge. Thank you, sir.
thank you.